We start tonight with breaking news. A 6.5 earthquake made its way through the Treasure Valley this evening, just a few minutes before 6. That quake could be felt in several states. And tonight we break down what happened. CBS 2 has team coverage. Brent Hunsaker shares what the quake felt like from the anchor desk. Erica Lee has a look at home videos taken during the quake. But first, Chief Meteorologist Roland Stedham shows us the epicenter of this quake. And Roland, what have you uncovered?
What I've uncovered is that this is a very seismically active region of the state, Natalie, and this evening's earthquake at 5:52 p.m. jump-started a lot of hearts here in the Treasure Valley. Now, on average, we have about 30,000 earthquakes worldwide that range between 2.5 to 5.4. This evening's earthquake was a 6.5, and that is categorized as a strong earthquake. Only about 100 of those earthquakes in that range occur worldwide per year. Now, the epicenter was located right here just north of Highway 21. Here's Cascade, right here is Chalice, and there is Stanley. And you can see that there has been a swarm of aftershocks. The actual earthquake at 5:52, 6.5, occurred 6.5 miles almost directly beneath the surface of the earth. And it is this region of the central mountains of the state that is incredibly beautiful. It's the Sawtooth Mountain Range. It's very beautiful because it's very seismically active. In 2010, seismologists discovered the Sawtooth Fault. It is 40 miles long and runs from Stanley northward right across this range that you see me flying over this last summer. The fault is capable of producing a magnitude 7.5 earthquake. Now, the central mountains of the state are known as the hotbed for earthquake activity. In fact, in October of 1983, Bora Peak experienced a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. This caused $12.5 million in damage, Natalie, between Chalice and Stanley.
Roland, thank you so much. Well, tonight I spoke by phone with Dr. David Pearson. He's a structural geologist and an associate professor at Idaho State University. A couple of takeaways from our conversation. The epicenter of this earthquake, as Roland just said again by Stanley, was most likely northwest of the Sawtooth Fault. One like this, a 6.5, is much less common. Dr. Pearson says back in the 1940s, that area did have 2 magnitude 6 earthquakes. He says, don't be surprised if we have additional quakes.
Typically, when you have an earthquake of this magnitude, there will be aftershocks associated with it. So, we had slippage along this fracture, this fault, and there's some jostling around associated with that. And so there's some kind of rearrangements and additional slippage that we would expect to have along faults. And so there's already been a couple aftershocks associated with this one.
And Dr. Pearson says by comparison, the Yellowstone region can feel 1,000 to 3,000 earthquakes per year, but usually a much smaller magnitude. Now, he does not think tonight's quake means anything at all about volcanic activity in Yellowstone. Now we see the shaking firsthand. CBS 2's Erica Lee has first-person video and reaction from the people of Idaho. Erica.
Natalie, it's all calm and quiet right now in Boise, but a couple hours ago at around 5:52 p.m. it was a completely different story. I was in my apartment and all the furniture was shaking, the whole room was shaking, and this 6.5 magnitude earthquake, many Idahoans say, is the first and largest earthquake that they've ever experienced. We've gathered some viewer home video for you guys, and many businesses are closed right now because of the coronavirus. So most people reported feeling the shaking at home. And much of our captured video shows shaking chandeliers, shaking living rooms, backyards, and some say that their household items were shaking, and many felt dizzy after. For more viewer video and updates on the earthquake, you can head on over to idahonews.com. Reporting live in Boise, Erica Lee, CBS 2 News.
Now, the shaking started just as CBS 2's Brent Hunsaker was essentially wrapping up our 5:30 newscast. Here's what it felt like in the studio.
It was in a commercial break, and you could kind of feel this rolling sensation. And you look up, and the lights are swaying back and forth above me. And I thought we were going to be okay until it kept going. And then seemed to subside a little, and then came another second, little stronger wave of energy, and the lights kind of got going a little more, and I was trying to decide if I needed to jump underneath the desk to protect myself from lights falling on my head. Fortunately, that didn't happen.
And tonight, we also heard from a woman living in Chalice. She described what it was like at the time of the earthquake.
We were fortunate. My husband really puts things up so they'll last a long time. So they were shaking very hard, but we did not have anything drop and fall.
Grace said she and her husband are doing okay. They were not hurt. Well, tonight's tremors could also be felt in McCall. Bob Jessen called the newsroom and told me what happened right after 6.
Well, we were having dinner, and it all of a sudden it felt like somebody picked up my chair and was shaking me, and then it stopped. And in the meantime, we have 2 lamps that hang from the ceiling over the dining room table, and they were swaying back and forth.
And Greg Hogan, the owner of Redwood Cabins in Stanley, spoke to CBS 2 tonight about his experience. Take a listen.
I thought that like a herd of rhinos or rhinoceroses were running through the house, and then I said, this is an earthquake. And my boy's looking at me with his eyes wide open, and I just picked him up, grabbed him, and just went outside until it settled down.
We're glad that everyone is okay. Now, that said, I'd also like you to be on the lookout for some false information. It is spreading on social media. Someone used the IdahoNews.com logo and then added text to a graphic saying there were issues with Lucky Peak after the earthquake. I want to be very clear about this. There have been no issues. Again, someone used our own logos and our scripting, stole it, and then spread some fake news. CBS 2 is working with our social media partners to stop the spread of this misinformation. Again, I want to let you know you are safe, and Lucky Peak, as we know it tonight, is just fine.
Who are reaching the end of their lives will often rely on hospice for comfort and support. But hospice care looks very different right now as we all work to protect ourselves and others from the coronavirus. CBS 2's Haley Kramer talked to Treasure Valley Hospice about what they're doing to support patients and their loved ones.
Hi, Virginia. It's David, Chaplain David. I wanted to sing a song for you today.
David is getting ready to sing Virginia her favorite hymn.
Rugged Cross. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross.
To see the smile on her face, despite the fact that he's not going into her home right now, it's just cool. We're finding whatever means that works for the patient or the family.
Honey Goodman, Chief Operating Officer for Treasure Valley Hospice, says it was difficult at first to imagine providing this type of care under the current circumstances.
We're so used to really touching people, both physically and emotionally. You know, there's a lot of hand holding going on, there's a lot of hugs, and we've really had to be more cautious. And it's been interesting because families are appreciating the cautiousness as well.
These new virtual meetings are just part of the care. Patients are still being seen, but they've made adjustments to make sure they're putting safety first.
Where we might have been going in 3 or 4 times a week before, now it might be we're going in once a week. Or twice a week, and then doing everything else virtually. The in-home visits really have changed a lot for us. We've always followed what we call universal precautions, which is, hand washing and taking good infection control practices. But with this, we have to take a lot of additional measures, staying that 6 feet away, having gloves on at all time, having a mask on.
They've started collaborating with 3 other local hospice companies, sharing resources and staff. And Goodman says the community support they've received has helped them continue to serve some of the community's most vulnerable.
So I have everything from the gowns that, masks. I had somebody yesterday, a church, make us 30 wearable gowns that we can just washable gowns. That's huge. Somebody else dropped off 400 disposable gowns to us yesterday. People have just sought us out. And I feel like it's just a God thing. Our community has just loved us through this.
Haley Kramer, CBS 2 News.